Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Kansas City Jazz vocalist Deborah Brown. We caught up with her in mid-May 2020 during the COVID-19 quarantine to discuss what has been going on. She talked about the last show of hers on March 13, 2020 at Johnson County Community College's Carlsen Center that was canceled abruptly, and many other observations about this surreal time of no live jazz. Have a listen.
Yay, we're on the phone together. How are you doing?
We are. Oh, man, I have been talking to a lot of musicians and talking about my very last jazz act, which was on the 12th at the college, talking to Maxine, asking her about Dexter, and it just seems like a whole other time of life, whole other era.
I know. Last concert.
Man. Yeah. So, did you get to do the 13th? Did that happen?
It was canceled.
Because I kept checking, and I was real tepid because I had two things going on. I really wanted to make your show, and then on the 14th there was a soul jazz band that was coming through that was playing at the Black Dolphin, and they actually did play on the 14th and didn't have really that much of a crowd, but that was kind of when the shutdown was happening. So I guess I should ask you first and foremost. I mean, I kind of want to talk about COVID-19 and the hope for when this is all over. So my first question is, when did you know that things were starting to change and happen?
When I was preparing for my Russian tour, because I went to Russia, I got back from Russia on the 4th. I did a 10-day tour before that, so I guess it was like at the end of February. Something went wrong with my processing of my papers on my visa. And that was odd because that has never happened before. And I thought, well, my initial thought was they're having problems getting people off of the boats because the embassy is in Texas, in Houston, Texas, and boats go from there. And I thought, that agent went to that boat to try to take care of those people personally. I said, I wonder, is that the one of the reasons why they weren't in the office and couldn't get my papers? So that was my first thought, but it was just very, very fleeting. And but I did finally get my paperwork. I missed my flight. That was awkward to Moscow. And then they had to reroute all of the concert dates in Moscow, which was really, risky. But all the concerts came through except for one couldn't reschedule. And every concert was pretty much sold out, which was unusual. So when I came back from Russia on the 4th of March, I had the project that I was doing with Maxine Gordon, Dexter Gordon's wife, and all these people were coming in from St. Louis and from Tennessee. So I was getting a little bit nervous, and then I started wondering. About a week before is when I began to be concerned about the audience. And I thought, and then people were calling me, is the concert still on? But I was given an answer that, yes, but it is a personal decision whether you'd like to come or not. So nobody was giving us any kind of direction about what we should do. And on Friday the 13th was the day that we had the concert, but that was also the day that the Lawrence Art Center canceled our concert. And I thought, we're in problems. So I was really distracted during my concert, but we had a nice crowd. We actually had a nice crowd. Maxine, talked to a lot of people, sold a lot of books, but it was a really nerve-wracking experience.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about all of this is that there's so many stories and so many ways that people figured all of this out, and now we're 2 months into this. It seems unreal. I mean, like a snow day seems like nothing now. So my question to you is this. During this time of quarantine, what memories are you drawing on that are giving you strength? Like memories from live shows, things that have happened over your career. How are you staying strong and keeping your chin up?
Well, you have to also keep in mind that, this is a business. I mean, it's like work. I mean, do you really think about your work after, no, you really think about your friends and family. You think about, how everyone is doing. And, of course, I have my faith is very strong. I'm one of those people that actually teaches the Bible. And so there's a scripture in Isaiah 41:10 that I really drew on, and it says, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I'm your God." And that is a very faith-strengthening scripture as well. It helps me not to panic because I really didn't know what it was, and I didn't want to panic, but I drew on all the things that I'd learned before scripturally, and that helped keep me centered. And I fall into the category of those that are high risk. I'm Black. I'm older. I'm an older person. I have some health challenges. So I just didn't want to panic. So I've been keeping up my doctor's appointments. I've been, reading about this virus. However, it's not been over the top because I found out the more I listen to the virus, the more upset I get. So I limit what I listen to. As far as the music is concerned, I've talked to friends all over the world, people that I have personal connection with, musicians and singers, mostly singers, and former students. We've been keeping in contact with each other through, just some very encouraging words. And so it hasn't really been about what I would say, really hasn't been at all about the business. It's just been all about, how are you feeling? Is everything going fine? How's your family? This experience really helps you, get on a more personal level than on a business level, in my opinion.
We're going to eventually get back to live music. And when we do, what do you hope both the crowd and the musician realizes, any revelations we get from this time away?
Well, that's an interesting question because, of course, everybody wants to think that, okay, this will be over. But when I take a look at some of the footage of, some of the videos that I've sent out on the International Jazz Day, and I see all those people together, and I remember how close we were, and it's just hard for me to visualize what a concert venue would look like. So that's really hard for me to visualize unless is something outside. I think the idea of being in a drive-in theater, I think that sounds like a great idea. I
do too.
And I thought, well, that it could be a bigger, but I just can't imagine an intimate place unless people were really paying a high price for having a very intimate concert. Because you can't make any money with 10 people in the audience. You can't make any money with 50 people in the audience. I just can't envision that. So, and then the other thing, too, is just how comfortable are you going to feel in a small space. So that's what I'm grappling with is this kind of, I would say the end of my career. I've been thinking a lot about Johnny Cash. I know that sounds odd, but Johnny Cash, I like Johnny Cash. I never liked him growing up as a kid, but as he got older, I really tend to really like his music a lot. And all he did was record, and he recorded with younger artists that made his music even more, have a wider wider audience appreciation. And I'm thinking that's going to be my life, is being in the studio. I feel comfortable in a studio setting, and I think the music would live on longer than I would probably. So that's kind of how I'm looking. It's really hard for me to visualize what a concert would be like. And besides that, everyone is having such a good time doing these Zoom concerts. I mean, it's just like, are you really? And then on top of that, you can ask the artist questions and, so I mean, it could be a little bit more intimate. I'm not really sure where everything is going. I'm not sure.
Well, I guess my other question is this, and I've been talking to musicians from all over the world, and I'm kind of honing more into Kansas City, because Kansas City really, before this happened, was in a renaissance period that I mean, the music was flourishing all the time in a way that it had for decades. And I'm wondering, what do you think a recovery is going to be like based on the way Kansas City rolls and the way we are as a people?
Well, I look at things a little bit different as far as that's concerned, the renaissance of music. Kansas City has always had, there was kind of a dead period in the 70s where there wasn't a lot going on. But, Kansas City has always been the kind of place where you could actually sit down on a job for, 15 to 20 years. And everybody knew where you were, so they would go there. I think that might be coming back again. With something like this, because you'd have to have people that you would trust in the audience. They wouldn't get too close. They wouldn't cause problems. People would be able to, make sure they weren't sick when they came to see you. So I think it's going to be a completely different experience in the clubs. I think places like the Blue Room, which has a lot of space, and it could be that place would do well because it's got a lot of space. Even the Dolphin, that Dolphin club is set up for people to be away from each other. So I could see something like that happening. It's really hard to call. I think it really takes a lot for the people that are putting these venues together, how they envision it, what the city will allow. As far as how many people will be in a room. As far as the music, personally, okay, if it was like a, Shangri-La, world, I would say we would have much larger venues with bands that are much more prominent and farther apart, and it could be a very exciting scene. That takes a lot of money, and people would have to spend the money to get into the club. No more of this, getting in for free. So that would be a big change too. Because when people don't pay for a concert, then you have an audience of people that may not appreciate you as much as those that do pay a fee. If you have a fee there'll be people there that want to be there, and the focus will be on the music, not just being there and hanging around with people and drinking. Whatever, a person would come into a club for free and disrupt the club and disrupt the music. The recovery here in Kansas City, I would think and I would hope that it would be in larger venues, spacious venues, where people could come in and still feel comfortable enough to listen comfortably to the music. And I think that the stages could be larger, and maybe even having a smaller group, like a trio, maybe just someone on piano, someone on guitar. So that could, there could be a myriad of different acts that could happen on stage. But I think the social distancing is going to be with us for a while. So, but, of course, everyone is looking forward to playing again as a musician, but also the audience is waiting to hear music from the musicians here in Kansas City. I hope everything goes well, for sure. Thank you, Joe.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate it. Stay safe out there, and I look forward to seeing you live. All right, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest singers in Kansas City and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Deborah for her time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.